Okay, we're ready for today's news conference with Coach Liam Coen. And looks like John Hale already has a hand up. We'll get started with John. If you've got a question, raise your hand. We'll get to you. John, go ahead, please.
Liam, Isaiah Cummings was a guy that Mark and the previous offensive staff talked a lot about his potential last year. I'm curious, what have you seen from him? And then also, just how do you feel like the offense is suited to big jump ball kind of receivers like him and even Trayvon Morgan when he gets here in the summer?
Yeah, I think Isaiah is similar to those other guys. He's still learning right now. For a big body guy, has some initial quickness, does some nice things at the line of scrimmage for a big guy, but, still just needs to continue to play faster on a day-to-day basis. And to me, we utilize big guys that can play, can catch the football anywhere. I mean, he can utilize those guys, but it's just a matter of him getting in his book, playing fast right now. There's a lot of thinking going on, but Isaiah's a great kid, and he'll figure this thing out.
Nick Roush?
Jagger Burton was really heralded for his athleticism. Even though he's an offensive lineman, you don't hear those two said in the same sentence that often. But has that translated over now that he's at an upper level?
Yeah, it has. Really excited about Jagger. He's done some nice things. He definitely has athleticism. When he gets out on the perimeter, can run, can do some different things. He's definitely an athletic kid. He can really move in space, which is tough for offensive linemen. He's a little bit lighter than some of those guys right now, but Jagger's got some big time potential. Really excited about him moving forward.
Lonnie?
Yeah, Coach. You might know that one of your freshmen, Jordan Dingle, played in the state tournament. And I was wondering if you got any reports on what kind of things you look for in a tight end, what he might have shown on the basketball court.
Yeah, apparently we got MVP recently and did some really nice things. And it's really just that hybrid type kid in terms of guys that can play out wide, come in the slot, come inside in the interior and do some different things. It's exciting to see some guys that we have in the program that we've, obviously have committed that are coming in town that can do multiple different things at the tight end position as much as they can do and can handle from a athleticism standpoint and from a mental standpoint. We'll do those things. And I think Dingle has some talent that we're excited about seeing here on campus soon.
Adam?
Hey, Liam. The offensive or guard position, it's not a spot we've really heard a lot about this spring. I assume that's probably a good thing. You got three really veterans there, Fortner, obviously, and then Horsey and Dotson played a lot last year. And then Burton, you just talked about, I'm assuming he's at guard too. Mm-hmm. How do you feel about that spot? And in this new scheme, how important is that position? Is that, you talked about athleticism. Are you going to ask them to move around and pull more maybe than they did in the past? Just, I guess, where do you stand there, and what are your expectations moving forward?
Yeah, I think that's a position right now that has a little bit of competition. We're messing around with Fortner at some center, doing some different things with those guys rotationally, which will get some guys a bunch of reps and be able to play multiple different players at different positions. I definitely think we're going to run a little bit more, obviously, with some of the wide zone and then the pin, some getting those guys on the perimeter, some perimeter runs, which is a little bit different from what they've done in the past. But, I'm excited about those guys. I mean, it's a good group of competition that we'll have at those positions inside. And definitely think we're in a good spot. It's kind of a good problem to have. You got guys that have played a lot of snaps, and then you got a couple of young guys that have shown some flashes early on in spring practice and are excited to do some good things for us.
All right, Josh Moore.
Hey, Liam, when you, I know kind of when they were looking at bringing in Wandale, maybe some other guys, you were kind of, they've talked about you sitting down and looking at film with them and kind of, showing what they would do. I mean, I'm curious, what has your role been early on here as far as just, recruiting high school players and other, has that been something you've been able to deal in much, or are you still, just because you're getting used to it, is that something you're kind of just easing into?
Yeah. I mean, more so obviously overseeing some of the offers and commits and things like that, looking at some of those guys, but really trust the staff to be able to do those things. And definitely involved with a lot of the offensive recruiting. I'll have an area coming up soon that, once this class kind of goes through, that I'll get going on. But, we've done a nice job recruiting. We got to continue to get skill players in here as much as possible. And I think once you prove you can throw the football a little bit better, you'll attract some of that talent and attract some of those guys to be able to come in and compete at those positions. And we need to get better at every position. That's just the end of the day. And that's through development, but that's also in recruiting as well.
If I could follow up real quick, I know you've obviously got a lot of quarterbacks on the roster, but is there something like when you go out, if you're, you being the guy that's coaching those guys, is, like basically your ideal guy, like, like the kind of guy you would target going out in recruiting?
A point guard, somebody that can go out and deal and play the game, great hand-eye coordination, initial quickness, guy that can kind of change his arm slot and be able to throw the football when he is here, but also be able to, pass and be able to deal, no look, just be able to play the position. So I'm looking for a point guard who's a little bit taller than 6 feet.
John Clay?
Liam, these guys in learning a new offense, you've mentioned the book several times. How important is it for them to know the playbook backwards and forwards, but also the concepts behind those plays in the playbook?
Yeah, I think it's huge. I mean, at the next level, you don't have your iPad on you, you're probably going to get fined. And that's the reality is, and we have guys that need to get in their book, and it's not good. And, it's just, you don't have enough time for an hour meeting and then go out on the field and expect to do it. They got to get in their books and get in the studying and get extra work. I mean, at the end of the day, that's, something that needs to get done when you're behind like we are in terms of getting an offense. And the defense has been running the same system for 5 years. So the expectations are high in terms of getting extra work in on their own, doing time, quizzing each other, getting in flashcards, anything they can do in order to try to learn and get an edge in terms of learning this offense needs to get done. And it's my job to communicate that to them right now. But we definitely need to get in our books and learn this install a little bit better than we did today.
Josh mentioned the what you want to see in quarterbacks, but for quarterbacks out there that a lot of kids who are maybe, wanting to be that gunslinger and that are in middle school or something, what advice would you give to them to do now to prepare them to potentially make it to this level as a quarterback?
Man, it's tough. I'm so far removed from coaching, lesser than 16-year-old kids right now. And it's hard for me to wrap my head around people that are offering 8th graders and things like that. And I understand it's the game and it is recruiting. But just from a fundamental standpoint is just get out there and throw as much as you can. And if my opinion, if you can't throw a hitch or a slant, I'll go play another position, brother. Go play another position. But at the end of the day, if you can throw and catch some of the intermediate routes and throws, and then you can get with a quarterback coach and start to work individually. But I mean, everybody wants to play quarterback, right? Everybody wants to play when they first start until you get hit in the teeth and you got to throw the ball and stand in there. So honestly, it's tough for me to give advice to an 8th grader right now. I'm a little bit more worried about, the struggles of, redshirt juniors.
All right, Larry?
Thanks, Tony. I think you said me. I haven't had trouble hearing you, but Liam, 2 things. One, is Jagger Burton good enough that you think he can help play this year? And 2, do you have a plan to try to get around and meet any of the high school coaches in the state when you get a chance?
Yeah, absolutely. I do think he has the talent to play this year. There's no question. I mean, I know he'll get developed and continue to get bigger, stronger, and faster in the weight room with those guys downstairs. There's no question he has some ability to contribute and play this year. And yeah, once we're cleared to get on the road and do some of those things and to get people in on the campus. But right now, those rules have not been lifted for us to go out and do any of those kind of things right now.
But when they do, you plan to get out and try to meet some of those guys?
For sure. Yeah, absolutely. It's priority number 1, keeping your guys at home and meeting the coaches in state. Absolutely. It's definitely a big priority for us.
John Hale?
Liam, as you talk about the playbook and considering everybody's learning a new offense, does that kind of level the playing field at all for these early enrollees who are coming in right away? I mean, obviously they haven't played at this level, but can you see some of those guys making a bigger jump than maybe you would in a normal spring?
Totally. That's a great question. It's a good point. Absolutely levels the playing field. Because the best players are going to play at the end of the day. I don't care if it's on the offensive side of the ball, if you're a senior, if you're a freshman, if you just came in, if you just, obviously experience helps, right? But at the end of the day, the best players that are going to play, that know the offense and can get lined up and throw and catch and do all those little things that you're looking for. And you can definitely see it. There's some guys that have come in. Lavelle Wright is a kid who's mid-year enrollee, freshman, who's supposed to be taking geometry class right now. And that kid has done an unbelievable job of learning the offense, knowing what he's supposed to do, alignment, assignment, and just as well as some of those older kids. Now, hey, reps and game reps are those things that he's missing right now, without a doubt. But in terms of understanding what we're trying to get accomplished, some of those younger guys have definitely stepped up and done a nice job.
Coach, prior to COVID-19, we had a lot more hands-on in terms of being able to perhaps see a couple practices, and also be in the atmosphere where a lot of interviews are being done. You can skip around from player to player and get a feel for what's going on. And I say that to say that I can't speak for everybody in the media, but I like to give grades at a certain point throughout a season, or practice, fall practice, spring practice. And at this particular point in time, from 1 to 5, what would you give your development in terms of where you are offensively with this football team? Or can you give me some idea about that?
I'd say like a 3.5 right now. I think we're about a 3.5. If I had to grade us in terms of just the level of understanding, I think is getting there. Now it's just the execution. We have not installed over the last few days. We gave them this weekend off, came out today a little flat. We started high today. I thought we started on a good note. We sort of leveled off and plateaued a little bit. And when I talked to the team offense about this after practice, was somebody's got to stop the bleeding. All right, somebody's got to stop the bleeding, step up and make a play. It's not going to all be rah-rah, shishking ball, happy, go lucky. It's supposed to be hard. In practice, adversity is supposed to come up. So Saturdays are easy. And today we just didn't really have anybody step up and make a play. But overall, I'd say around a 3.5. And I'm happy with the guys are working. They're working. That's the one thing about this culture of this program. These kids work. When they go out on the football field, they put their head down and they go to work and they practice hard. Now it's just about, hey, let's get a couple new wrinkles in over the next few weeks of spring practice and go from there. But right now, I'd say we've picked it up fairly nicely. But, we need some guys to step up and make some more plays.
Okay, we've got 3 more guys in the queue. We'll need to close down after that. John Wong, Adam, and JD. We'll start with John Wong.
Liam, will you be coaching from the sidelines this year, or will you be up in the press box? And in your system, how important is a trusted pair of eyes in the press box for you?
Very much so. That's a great question. I'm not sure yet, to be honest. I'm not sure yet. I'm going to probably try out both in this spring with our scrimmages coming up. I'll probably try one from the sideline, one from the box. It's big to have somebody upstairs, especially when you're down, to have some trust and be able to have the eyes up top. That's something we're still sorting out as a staff. I've done both. I've called it from up top and from the sideline. And I think a lot of it has to do with the leadership on the sideline and guys to be able to, see. I like to see guys in their eyes and look them in their eye when they come off the sideline, and also what the quarterback's going to be like. If I'm a little bit of a type A guy, if the quarterback has that kind of energy and wants to have that around him, I'll be on the sidelines. But if he wants to stay away from me on game day, which I can understand, I might be in the box. But I do believe in coaching the position, and especially on offense on Saturdays, like you're like a caddy in golf. You're really just trying to give them some tools and some keys to help them. And it's a next shot mentality. Next shot, next play the next play and move on. We're not trying to have craziness go on Saturdays. So sometimes me being in the box is a little bit of a better thing.
Adam?
Yeah, Liam, you mentioned playmakers. Mike Drennan was a pretty big recruiting win last class, first full spring, second year in the program. How is he progressing?
Yeah, Mike's got to get in his book, man. He's just one of those things that he missed some time early on, and it's really hard to play catch up. It's really hard to play catch up when you're trying to get aligned. It's really hard to just get aligned and then not know where you're going. But he definitely has flashes some athleticism. He's a smart kid. I think he'll figure it out. It's just a matter of getting him into a rhythm now that he's back in full swing, of getting him into a rhythm of doing it consistently, day in and day out, every meeting, every workout, doing everything consistent all the time. But definitely excited about Mike moving forward.
And we'll wrap up with Jeff Drummond.
Yeah, Mike was one of the guys I was going to ask about too. There, I'm curious about Magwood too. What have you seen from him early on?
Chauncey's another kid similar to Lavelle that just eats it all up, and is probably he's doing a really nice job of learning the book and getting in it. And really, he's just a great kid. You can see some of the former quarterback traits come out in his game, in terms of just understanding some zones and voids, a little bit out of control at times, just because he's not used to running a ton of routes. But he's got big, strong hands, and he's a natural leader. He's a natural kid that, just wants to do things the right way all the time. And you can't get sick of that as a coach. The kid just wants to eat it up and do the best he can on a day-to-day, rep-to-rep basis. So excited about Chauncey moving forward for sure.
All right, Coach Coen, thank you for your time today. Folks, thank you all. We'll have Darian here soon.
Thank you.